Hi, I'm Linda M. Brandt, and we're continuing my story, Living Proof. That's the working title, anyway. And I think we were ending how, in the last segment, that, sometimes families, well, not sometimes, we all do, go through things, and it's always good to keep an open, soft heart towards each other and to be able to forgive because in the 70s, my husband and I, we purchased bulldozers and an excavating company we developed. His brothers also bought dozers, and we cleared woodlands, and it was a good business, and we worked really hard. I mean, we worked day and night. All of us did. I would take lunch to them in the field, and I would prepare breakfast at 3 a.m. They wanted to have the bulldozers rumbling in the woods when the sun came up in the morning. And that was always a picture for me to imagine. And one day I had taken lunch to them, and my husband fell asleep on his bulldozer. They're in like an acreage of like 6 acres at this point. So it wasn't like back to back. Anyway, his brother off in the other end of the property fell asleep on his bulldozer. However they did this, I don't know. But both of their feet slid off the pedals and they backed right into each other, 6 acres away from each other. How does that happen? I don't know, but crazy stuff. And then in 78, there was the blizzard in Ohio, and it was like none of us had ever experienced. The snow was over the telephone poles, the top of the telephone poles. And so we bought a V-blade and took off the big blade on the bulldozer, and the V-blade would actually get police officers, doctors, that babies were being born in this snowstorm, coroners to pronounce people dead, unfortunately. But so we had worked really hard and had been selling off some of our equipment because we knew that the work was starting to dwindle. All of the woods that needed to be cleared in the area were pretty well down now. So that last bulldozer was the one that was supposed to actually help us pay our home off. And we were really excited about that, worked hard for that. Well, Scott's father wasn't at the point that he was towards the end of his life, and he arranged to meet the gentleman there to pick up the dozer. And he, unbeknownst to us, had the check written to himself, and the money was gone. And I kept asking Rod, where's the money? Where's the money? And he wouldn't say. And then he finally told me one day. And that's when, after 17 years of marriage, everything started to go downhill. Even though we had both made a commitment to Christ during that time, after my mother and father had talked to us so much. And things were good for a while. We had another baby, a little girl this time. And but that really severed us. And so we divorced, and it was very, very hard for myself, my husband, my children, and the family became very involved, and it was just really bad. And I became the prodigal daughter, and I'm not proud of that. I know we can all go through that. But I decided just to be a career woman, and I wasn't going to get involved with families and all this temper tantrums and stealing from each other and drama, and I was going to be a big businesswoman. So I did my thing for a while, and God has a way, and I'm so grateful that He's gracious and that He's forgiving and that He welcomes us back into His arms. And maybe if you're going through something and you know that you've done some things that maybe God doesn't necessarily approve of, but you know that He loves you and He forgives you, I want you to know that too. because if you're his child, and it says when the prodigal son returned home, the father was looking out the window, and he picked up his robes and he ran to him and he said, give him the fatted calf, give him a ring, give him a robe. I love this boy. That's the way our Heavenly Father is with us. And so I want you to know that, so that my story is probably maybe even similar to your story in so many ways. But I want you to know, whatever you've gone through, whatever you're going through, whatever you will go through, he's got you hemmed in. It says that he hems us in from the front of his gowns to the back of his gowns, and he holds us tight. So if you have any doubt, go to his word. I was telling you earlier how sick I was with the gallbladder thing. They sent me to the hospital. It was a Friday night, and my husband was there, and I was in a room with another lady, and her husband was there. It was visiting hours, and she coughed all at once, and she had had major surgery, and they had told her, don't cough, don't sneeze, don't anything. You've had major surgery. And when she coughed, she goes, oh no. And her husband looked at us, and then he looked down, and she pulled her bedding back, and she was soaked in blood. I'm not kidding you. My husband left. He said, but he saw it. He saw it. And her husband left and went running down the hallway, yelling for nurses, doctors, get in here. And so all night they kept her bound up until they could get a hold of her doctor that had done the surgery. By the next morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, her doctor came in. He pulled back the sheets. And now, after that happened, and after my husband left and her husband left, all I said was, oh, Jesus, help her. And there was this peace that came in the room that I had never experienced before. Well, that morning when her surgeon came in, he pulled back the bindings that they had all put around her to try to hold her stomach together. I mean, when she pulled back the bedding, you saw her organs moving. It was like, what happened? And when he pulled it back, the incision was there. It was clean. There was a little like blood blister at the end of it. He started ranting and raving like, what is wrong with this hospital? I'm on a golfing tournament. They call me here for this. This is nothing. And so all morning the doctors and nurses were coming in and like, we don't believe it. What happened? We were here. We saw it. And, I didn't really know what happened either until I really, because my husband had seen it, he knew something had happened. Well, with that, then my surgeon came in and he said, we're going to try this for a day or two, and then I need you to come back and we're going to do surgery. Well, I started thinking about what just happened in that room, and I started thinking about the things my mother and father had told me. I picked up my old Bible from catechism. I started reading it, and I asked Jesus into my life at that point. And that was a total miracle for that lady, her husband, the doctors, the nurses, and for me and for my husband. So, it wasn't some big lengthy prayer with me on my knees, doing all the right things, fasting, forgiving, things that are good. There's nothing wrong with that if he calls you to do that. But it was so just a sweet spirit. Threw my medicine down the toilet, never went back. I've had an x-ray since, and guess what? My gallbladder's just fine. So the God we serve, the powerful God that created this universe, he's a healer. I can tell you that over and over again. And even I've got more to tell you too. A story I was just able to share on my way here to the studios today. So thanks for being with me. See you next time. Cheers.